So guys, in this next news story, a gang who left a DPD worker's brain exposed and his ear severed have been locked up for more than 100 years for their violent public execution. DPD employee Aurman Singh was part of a two-man crew delivering parcels when he was ambushed by an armed mob in a shocking spate of violence which lasted just seconds. The masked killers chopped at his head with an axe, hacking off part of his ear and leaving his brain split into two. They also bludgeoned him to death with a golf club, wooden stave, metal bar, hockey stick, shovel knife and a cricket bat. Aurman's panicked colleague had spotted the murderous criminals moments before the onslaught and desperately shouted at his pal to run. But Aurman was helpless and he only sprinted a few yards before collapsing to the ground as he fell to the hands of his killers. Parents were enjoying the last weeks of the school summer break with their children in their gardens, and they were left horrified when they stepped out of their home to discover Aurman's near-lifeless body surrounded by a huge pool of blood on the pavement. Wounds to his head, face and body were so severe that he could not be saved and died in front of their eyes. The killers made a quick bid for freedom, fleeing at speed in getaway cars and taking some of their blood-stained murder weapons with them. They'd only managed to track Aurman down after an inside man leaked details of the 23-year-old's delivery route. Today, a total of 5 men have been locked up for the terrifying slaughter in Shrewsbury. The sentencing judge, Christina Montgomery KC, said he was ambushed as he was making his deliveries in a residential area and killed in an attack of horrifying brutality. This had been carefully planned and everyone involved in this murder played an active role. There was little attempt to avoid detection that was no doubt in part due to naivety. But being identified was also the price to be paid for this very public execution which the defendants plainly expected would gather the respect of some who learned of their responsibility for it. So today, she delivered the sentencing. Arshdeep Singh, who's 24, was jailed for life with a minimum term of 28 years for being unanimously convicted of murder. Jagdeep Singh, who's 23, was jailed for life with a minimum term of 28 years after being unanimously convicted of murder. So Arshdeep's 24, Jagdeep's 23. You got Shivdeep Singh, who's 27, who's jailed for life with a minimum term of 28 years after being unanimously convicted of murder. Manjot Singh, jailed for life, he's 24 years old with a minimum term of 28 years after being unanimously convicted of murder. So all these guys, they're going to be serving more time in prison than years they've lived life. Deep that. The fifth man, Jagdeep Singh, who's 25, was jailed for 10 years after being acquitted of murder but unanimously convicted of manslaughter. Jagdeep was told he must serve 2/3 of his sentence before being eligible for a release by the parole board. The court heard today how Arshdeep was at the centre of everything that happened, but all 4 murderers took part in the planning and premeditation of the horrific crime. Arshdeep clubbed the victim over the head with a golf club with such force that it fractured his skull and partially detached his ear. It was wielded so brutally that the golf head broke off and the shaft was bent. Jagdeep chopped at Aurman's head 3 times with an axe, with blows so fierce that they went through his skull and left his brain exposed. Manjot struck the victim repeatedly with the wooden stave, bashing his bleeding head. The Audi driver Shivdeep did not leave the car or inflict any injuries during the violence, but certainly knew the plan to attack. Sukmandeep, who worked at DPD's depot in Stoke-on-Trent with Aurman, divulged information on the victim's whereabouts to the murderers. Without this information, the attack would not have taken place. Sukmandeep did nothing to stop the violence and must have known Aurman was to suffer injuries just short of GBH. Jagdeep even recorded a celebration video in the aftermath of the killing, filming the blood-stained axe and wooden stave after the murderers got back into the vehicles. Judge Montgomery said, "I have no doubt that the video created with dissemination by direct sending to uploading to social media in mind." The 5 defendants had denied murdering Aurman, who was from Smethwick and faced a 6-week trial at Stafford Crown Court, and juries returned their verdicts on March the 29th after deliberating for more than 4 days. Prosecutors told the trial how a total of 8 men were involved in this. They were in 2 cars and they lay in wait before hunting the victim down and launching their deadly attack. 4 other men, Harpreet Singh, Arshdeep's cousin, Mehakdeep Singh, Tarwinder Singh Turner and Sejpal Singh, are still wanted in connection with the case. They are said to have fled the scene in a white Mercedes-Benz while the convicted killers left in an Audi. Some of the weapons were dumped in a nearby street, while the axe was found wrapped in a grey hoodie from a wheelie bin in another street in Sipton. Police managed to track the Audi as it made its getaway before arresting the 4 men inside. A pathologist revealed how the fatal injury was an axe-related chop wound to the head. It went through the skull and brain, causing significant traumatic injury. Aurman's arm was also crushed with force during the attack. His ear was left partially amputated, while one of his ribs was cut in half. Some of his victims' extensive injuries were inflicted as his heart stopped beating or after it had stopped. A loose piece of skull was also discovered within the body bag during Aurman's post-mortem, the pathologist said. So just want to say once again, rest in peace, Aurman, and my condolences go out to your family. But armed thugs have been locked up for more than 100 years for the public execution of a DPD driver. And guys, in this next news story, a man has been jailed after a stash of high-purity cocaine worth £4.2 million was found hidden in a piano. Francesco Roll from Greater Manchester was stopped in his van by Border Force officials at Newhaven Port in East Sussex on Monday, the 6th of November, as he was returning from Normandy. As they searched the van, offering removal services, officers found a bed, 2 chairs, a cupboard, and several cardboard boxes. But further examination revealed a piano hidden under a blanket. Authorities noticed it was heavier than expected, and it was clear it had been tampered with. When they opened the piano, police found 89 wrapped blocks of high-purity cocaine estimated to be worth more than £4 million. Roll was arrested and the information was passed over to specialist detectives in Greater Manchester Police's Serious Organised Crime Group. An investigation was launched and it soon became clear that Roll was using a variety of fake delivery addresses across the UK. He initially tried to claim that he was the legitimate businessman, but when faced with the evidence, pleaded guilty to conspiracy to supply Class A drugs and the fraudulent evasion of the provision of the importation of the Class A drug. Roll was jailed for 13 years and 6 months today. Detective Inspector James Coles from the Greater Manchester Police Serious Organised Crime Group said, "We know that criminals are adapting their methods to evade law enforcement, which is why it is imperative that we continue to use all resources available to evolve with them and stay one step ahead." Had Roll been successful in bringing £4 million worth of cocaine into the UK, it would have had a devastating effect on our communities. His arrest and long custodial sentence would undoubtedly disrupt the drugs trade, and local dealers who were reliant on his shipments. Working with Border Force and partners across the UK and abroad, we are targeting drug traffickers, and this should be a stark warning to others who attempt to bring drugs into the UK. So guys, here's a couple of stories coming out from the streets of the UK. It's your boy GC. Keep it locked, keep it real.